Danny Black.
And I'm John Newman.
Welcome to Cardmensches. Well, welcome to Cardmensches. I'm Danny Black, and that's John Newman, as you just heard. And I want to thank you for joining us for episode 5. We got such a great response last time, so I just want to thank everybody who reached out. Really appreciate the positive words. Today, we want to thank Waxstat, first of all, our sponsors, Center Stage and SGC. So thank you to all of you for your support through the first 4 episodes and our 5th episode. And want to talk about today's topic. John and I were talking, it's fun to flex in this industry. And, who doesn't like having cool cards and who doesn't like buying, Hall of Fame players? And I think we all want to think that we found something or discovered a player or got in early or, something that, we fall in love with somebody and we want to get a lot of it. But let's be honest. Sometimes we swing and miss. Sometimes we buy cards and, what's up, Dylan? Hi, Double D. And I'm going to turn this over to John because both of us have swung and missed plenty, and we're going to share some of our favorites tonight. How you doing, John?
Good. I'm here in warm and sunny Syracuse, -18, and outside and snowy and super windy, and so treacherous out there. So glad to be inside. Glad to be here on episode 5.
Do you have heat? Is your house heated?
It is, but I like to dress the part.
Okay.
I wear. You ever heard the expression? You wear your emotions on your sleeves.
You're wearing 35 below wind chill on your.
Yeah, I'm wearing the weather on my sleeves. So that's Yeah, you watch hobby content, you follow people in the hobby on social media, right? You tend to see everybody's, I got a great deal. Check this card. And that's great. We all do that. But rarely does someone talk about when they took one on the chin, right? And got knocked out in the first round. They just talk about the knockouts they had and not the losses. So, we talk a lot off the air. And so we said, let's do a show, where we bring a human element, right? We don't always get it. We don't always get it right. And so I'll go first, I guess. And I think the only
reason you're going first is you took like the Mount Rushmore of this category. If this category had a Jerry West logo of cards that people wanted to invest in and maybe didn't get a good return on, this would be the logo. So you got to start with this one.
Yeah, I'm a New York City kid. I'm a Mets fan, and this guy was going to be the next coming of Pete Rose. You name the All-Star, and it was in the same sentence as him. And in my garage, I've got 3 binders of this player, all rookie cards. Front and the 9 pocket sheets, they're double stuff. So there's cards on the front and back, and these baseball binders they're this thick. I have 3 binders. I know there's at least 1,000 rookies of this guy, and
of this one player.
Yep, one guy, and to this day, I know he didn't have the career. Where I'm teasing everyone here, kind of dragging this out. I know to this day he didn't have the career that many thought, myself included. I still love him. I actually had a conversation with him on Twitter recently. I was hoping he followed the show, but he didn't. I still love him, even that. All that being said, besides, and it's like you said, it probably is the poster boy, and so it's this guy. All you have to do is see this card.
Well, I'm gonna
Greg Jeffries.
That's the Greg Jeffries.
This one's signed. This one is actually signed.
I'm going to put the overlay on real quick so people can just see real quick. If you're watching on YouTube, this is the 89 Topps Future Stars. Don't forget the Future Stars, which was the greatest part, Greg Jeffries, because we all knew, including Topps, that he was a future star. And that is a PSA 9 because somebody had to have that graded. And that's a new label. That's my favorite part. So this is somebody who didn't get it graded originally. Somebody.
It's not me. I just want to dispel the rumors that I did this. I might have 1,000 of this card, but this particular card on screen is mine.
So all right. So
another one. You got to have the Upper Deck Star rookie autograph.
So show us how far down this wormhole you went.
And what Greg Jeffries collection, super collection, is not complete with an autograph ball, right?
Yep. Greg Jeffries.
So,
alley. Yep.
Yeah, man. This guy, He's swinging the bat underwater. He comes out strong. Had some early playoffs. That's just a really good dude. Kind of a shorter guy, but hard nosed, plays hard. And as a Mets guy, man, I was all in. I love this guy. This will tell you something, Danny. I'm gonna put myself right out there. I don't cut newspaper articles out, right? I'm not that guy.
Yeah.
I cut anything that has Jeffrey.
Wait. You've got your own press clippings.
Yeah, but I don't like they're in a book. They're in like a folder somewhere. But I cut the Greg Jeffries stuff out. Like I had. So forget the 3 binders front and back of rookies. I had another book that had all the newspaper articles, interviews, and I played around this time. I was playing high school baseball too, so I was kind of. I remember I was in my high school pool with a metal bat swinging underwater, and the swim coach came in and said, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm training." Like, get out of there with a bat.
Well, you look like some crazy man, I'm sure.
Yeah, but I was. If I had a man crush for a current player at the time, it was Jeffries, and I had the 3 binders of rookies. I still have them. So I cleaned out my garage a couple years ago. My wife said, "You got a lot of cards that you probably don't want. Can you go in there and see what you can get rid of?" And I got rid of a good amount of stuff, but guess what's still in that? On the shelf there, those
1,000 Greg Jeffries rookies.
Oh, more than 1,000. I didn't have the heart to do it, man. It's still a part of me.
At what point did you say, you know what? I have 300 rookies. Not nearly enough. I have 800. No, let's keep going.
At every point.
This guy's still not hitting well. Let's get more.
Well, he did hit well. He just got hurt. Like he always hit pretty till the end. The injuries kind of took their toll, and obviously his last few years, he became a journeyman. He played on 3 or 4 different teams, and that was even when he left the Met and he got traded, which was a sad day. Let me tell you something. I didn't cry, but the tears were on the edge. I still loved him, man. Like the team traded him. He didn't sign in free agency. They traded him to the Royals. So I'm not embarrassed. I'm an honest guy. I'm a genuine guy. I'm gonna put the Greg Jeffries stuff out there, and he's my biggest. Here's the crazy thing: he's probably my biggest swing and miss, Danny, and I'm not crushed about it. Like I still have the stuff, and
you have an emotional connection to Greg. We prepped for this show, and I didn't realize the depth of the emotional connection you have with Greg Jeffries. Like you got all his. This is.
I've got all his minor league. I've got his early minor league stuff. Anything he appeared on, I probably have. If you remember Broders, the Fugazi cards back in the day, I even got Broder Greg Jeffries. I've met him. I've met him I met him in the minors when. I went to games and he hadn't been called up yet, so I followed him very early on and got autographs.
Did you walk around in a bathing suit swinging the bat underwater when you followed him?
No, when I say followed him,
just being ready,
No, but here's the other thing I had. I had a Greg Jeffries, and I bought it. I don't remember what I paid. I had a Greg Jeffries game-used bat uncracked, so it was still. I don't know if someone snuck it out of the locker room, but I bought someone who knew I was a huge fan. They're like, "John, I can get a bat uncracked. You want it?" I'm like, "You better believe I want it." I don't have that anymore. I will say that's the one thing I did sell, and if I sold it probably for a couple $100. So.
Well, I'm gonna move on from Greg if you're emotionally comfortable with that. I feel a little sad now. Like we should have done a whole episode on Greg.
You're gonna move on from Greg. I'm gonna stay right here.
You evidently have not moved on from Greg, and it doesn't appear.
No, I just I don't know. It's weird. If you ask me why, I couldn't give you like a real set answer. Just something. Just gravitated toward him. He just looks like a ball player, man.
If
like
you're
that,
of a certain age, this card means something to you. It does. I will give you that. All right. So from Greg Jeffries, your second choice was interesting because it's a slightly more modern player.
He's still playing, but he's not lived up to the hype in the billing that he sort of kind of came in with.
And I'm sorry, if you're in the chat and you have any names of people you've bought, please throw them out there.
Yeah, I'm curious if we have similar ones or different ones. But my next guy, he's still in the majors. He kind of gets called up and down with the Anaheim Angels, or LA Angels now. And it's Joe Adell. I've got like an 800 count bot over there of all like first Bowmans, some autograph stuff. I was a big believer in this guy when I was reading scouting reports, listening to minor league podcasts. I bought in. I said, this guy's going to be the next guy in the big leagues that's going to be a superstar and an all-star every year. Going to hit 30, 40 home runs a year, steal some bag, make some plays, in the outfield with his glove. And so far, it's been not the case, right? Been struggling, and he looks right now kind of like just a utility man that can maybe pinch hit. He gets sent down, he gets called up. He definitely needs to change his scenery, maybe to have a shot somewhere else and kind of shake the cobwebs, if you will. Someone will say, well, John, he's only 27, 28 years old. He can't close the book fully, and you're not incorrect, but he's had numerous chances, and it hasn't happened.
I think there is still a chance. More so.
Well, I got an 800 count.
More so than Greg Jeffries. Right. Let's be honest. Roy Hobbs 29. Yeah. I once bought 800 1990 Topps Jeff Ballards for $16.
I remember him. Jeff
Ballard was a left-handed pitcher, and he won 18 games for the Orioles in '89, I believe. So that would have been a fantastic purchase. Actually, Roy Hobbs 29. Send some of those over to me. I love Jeff.
That might be in the burn pile at this point.
I know. I haven't learned from any of this. My downfall, Double D, Dylan says, my downfall was buying too much wax. Otherwise, I have only ever bought vintage singles except for a few randoms, and this year was some Trouts. Well, then you have learned much better, Dylan, than we have, because I am not that good. So do you really think Joe Adell is done? I mean, do you really, seriously, all kidding aside, think Joe Adell's done?
Listen, I hope not, but I've watched enough of him and followed him. Obviously, when you have an 800 count back of Bowman Chromes, autos,
what's up,
right? You're going to follow him. And I'm hoping that the book is not closed, but the body of work is not showing. He's striking out, I think, at like a 40-45% clip. It's a high percentage. It's a high strikeout rate where unless you're hitting a home run, the other 50% of the time you're not going to be in the league very long. And he's not really hitting a lot of the home runs either. So he's not making contact, not putting balls in play, and he's not hitting the home runs as he was projected to. When you put those two things together, Danny, as you know, that's a recipe for not in the majors very long, right?
I'm going to give Joe Adell slightly more of a break than you are, but I'm also holding out on Luis Robert and, probably a lot of other guys I shouldn't hold on to. But yeah,
Luis Robert's playing well.
I lost.
When he's healthy, he's playing good.
When I'm healthy, I'm playing good, and I haven't been healthy in 30 years. So, all right. Now I know you had a much bigger list. A couple other names you want to throw out quickly. Don't talk about it.
Another guy that I have a lot of stuff like over there, kind of like it's taunting me over there on the shelf. This guy, I think you can close the book on. I think he's on his fourth or fifth team now. When he plays, he's batting under 200. I thought he was going to be the next great catcher in the major leagues, and that was Francisco Mejia, who came up with, was an Indians prospect and now has played for, I don't know, 4 or 5 teams. He's doing the tour where he's going to play for half the existing teams and just can't put it together. Disappointing, and now there's another catcher. I'm not investing. He's on my Mets, named Francisco. That's supposed to be the next great catcher. His last name's Alvarez. But I'm not. You got catchers and pitchers you got to be careful about. And I know we're going to segue into your two. And you're going to break the rule that I make for myself, which is don't buy a lot of pitchers if you can avoid it.
So you just said one of the rules that I learned a long time ago. And these are two of the players that helped me learn the rule. I didn't believe in the rule. And when Todd Van Poppel was coming up, and his cards were coming out. And here is the Upper Deck Van Poppel rookie. Let me tell you something. I own more Todd Van Poppel than Upper Deck did. I had Todd Van Poppel. I had Todd Van Poppel in every version you can imagine, in every condition, in every grade. I mean, well, this was pre most of the grading, but every condition you could have raw. And I was a dealer at the time. I must have gone to every single show with 50 to 100 Van Poppels in my case. I absolutely was enthralled with him. So unfortunately, he had a long career. Love his Dunner's card. Absolutely. He had a lot longer career than people realize, but I think it's safe to say he did not live up to the hype. And that's the swing and miss for me. He very nice career. In fact, Matt Wieters is another one I thought about putting up here. That was a swing and miss, but a solid career. Ben McDonald.
That's right up your alley, Danny from Baltimore. Ben McDonald.
I know Ben McDonald. Another guy who had a longer career than you realize, but never lived up to the hype. I mean,
he had a couple really nice seasons though. Yeah. Like dominant a lot of strikeouts. Like he was on the quick path, and then it just didn't pan out. And,
he's now a broadcaster, and as he says, back then they didn't worry about next year's shoulder; they worried about today's game. So I understand that.
Yeah, he threw hard. I remember him in college with LSU,
absolutely, and he had all the pitches. I mean, he wasn't just fastball. However, other guys don't make it for different reasons. And if you're young and you're drafted high and you're drafted by the Yankees and you end up in a bar and a fight breaks out, you don't do Brian Taylor. You don't join the bar fight. Brian Taylor, and I know he was defending a relative or whatever the story was, but his career ended before it really got off the ground. And he was supposed to be the next great high school arm. I mean, he had an arm that was just touched from above, and he was in New York. I mean, talk about a marketplace, to have his stuff, and never got anything out of it. Hurt his arm in the fight. It was just never the same pitcher again. I think I'm correct in saying he never made the majors.
No, I don't believe he did. And you look at that card. I remember I had my store. I had my store when this card came out, when it was live, and I made a lot of sales of that card at a very high price. And that was the card that a lot of people thought that they were going to pay for their kids' college fund with, by stocking up on those. And when that bar fight sort of doomed them, there was a lot of disappointment, not just in the Yankees organization with himself, but a lot of people sitting on a lot of Brian Taylor cards. And he was taught, even before he was like, he obviously never made the big leagues, but he was talked about like, you talk about can't miss, right? People were just like, he's going to be the guy, like it's no doubt. And really is what fueled the card sales. You hear no doubt. This guy is Bob Gibson. I've heard him compared at the time to Bob Gibson, dominating type of stuff. And, and
it was New York.
Heavy fastball.
Don't underestimate
the Yankees. Sure, you had the Yankees, and we're kind of making, being tongue in cheek about it, but there's the human element too, right? Like that, this is probably was his dream, and one incident sort of ended it in a flash. I hate to say it like that, but that's crazy. And I guess there's the lesson too, Danny, to be careful who you go all in on, right? And you used two pitchers. That's a rule I have, but I will break my own rule, and I'll if I could talk about that real quick. I've got a shoebox. Over there, and one side is filled with all Hunter Green rookies, and the other side is filled with all Tristan McKenzie rookies. Now they're both actually doing fairly well right now, so that's good. But that could change, just like with Brian Taylor, right? That could change. Hunter Green actually struggled where he was walking people and couldn't find the plate. He worked with some pitching coaches and straightened that out. But and what's to say doesn't revert back, right?
John, normally we save this until later when we give our opinions on football picks. But after hearing your theory and what you just described...
Welcome to the failure segment, where John and Danny share their picks sure to go wrong.
Well, it's a good
Do not invest in pitchers. I don't care what John says. Don't invest in pitchers.
Well, I'm holding out hope. My break my bad luck streak will break with McKenzie and Hunter Green. So
well, you're a hopeless romantic, and I'm going to get Greg Jeffries to I wonder if he does cameo. I can get him a cameo message. In fact,
probably $10, probably just a little more than what his rookie card cost.
Right.
Hey Hodges,
what's going on? So Hodges, we're talking about biggest swing and miss cards that we've had in our lifetime. Somebody tweeted me earlier today a great name, Kevin Moss, another Yankee. Why is it always the Yankees? Is it the Yankee market that builds them up?
Well, that's a tough place to
Kevin
play,
Moss
man. The lights are hot. The lights are hot in New York, right? And that's pinstripe, right? I never bought. I will say this. I don't know about you, but I sort of avoided the Kevin Moss pratfall. I wasn't a believer. I kind of saw that one year where he was hitting home runs left and right as just an anomaly. I said, this guy's not legit. He's just catching lightning in the bottle. And anytime I pulled a Moss out of a pack, I was selling it. That one I'm gonna take the W on because I didn't keep any of those, unlike the other gentlemen we're talking about. So I was moving Mosses as fast as I could pull them. And people forget he had a brother that was a player too, Jason Moss. So if you thought Kevin Moss didn't turn out well, just see Jason Moss. And
was Jason a Moss also?
Yeah. So
was hit or Moss?
He was a Moss. They both were a Moss. And Alvin Davis, I will say this though, he had a pretty good career. Like he's not a Hall of Famer.
If you bought a lot of cards though.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. But he wasn't he was better than Joe Adell's on track to be. I'll give Alvin Davis that much. You know what I mean? So
well, I'll admit that I bought a lot of Ryan Miner, if that name rings a bell to anybody. Ryan Miner was a basketball player, I believe, at Oklahoma, and played baseball. So he was a dual sport athlete. Guy was about 6'5", power hitting third baseman, and he was the one that was being groomed to replace Cal. And on the day that Cal was going to end the streak and sit down, they called Ryan Miner into the manager's office and said, Ryan, you're going to be starting at third base today. Cal's not going to play. Ryan takes a deep breath, looks at the manager and goes, does Cal know? So that's my favorite Ryan Miner story. However, his cards.
Ron Kittle, there's another guy. He won Rookie of the Year, 83, I believe.
And if you loaded up on his cards in 83, it was downhill from there.
Yeah. There was a time I remember, his cards were bringing pretty good bucks when you sold them. But again, and he's still very active on social media. He's a really good dude. If there was a hall of good dudes, he'd be in it. He's not going to get in the Hall of Fame, but if there was a hall of good dudes, Ron Kittle might be a first ballot guy. So
absolutely.
Gabe Kapler, there's another one.
Yeah,
and that dude, you know what I remember about Gabe Kapler? The giant, Popeye arms kind of coming out of his I'm just going to say, he's a manager now, obviously. He looks a lot smaller than he did during his playing days.
Well, I will also say my wife finds him mildly attractive, and so we're not a big fan of Gabe Kapler on this half of the house.
Joe Charbonneau. That's the other guy besides Jeffries that could be the logo for swing and a miss.
There's so many of them. If you want to go back, though, there's so many of them.
Yeah.
But these are great names.
Yeah. It's just funny how you forget about some of these guys till someone else brings them up, in the chat today, which is great.
The Jeff Ballard made me remember Craig Worthington, who was a third baseman with the Orioles, who was supposed to be the next great third baseman. And in Baltimore, that's saying a lot. And there's a reason nobody's heard of Craig Worthington. But I bought all of them. I was ready for all his cards. He was going to be the next Brooks. But
you want to pick a guy? You want to Steve Balboni? He had some monster home runs though. He struck out a lot.
His cards were never worth anything.
No, not really. But when he hit some moonshots, I remember watching it, and balls are still going somewhere that they haven't landed. I mean, with him, it was he was going to strike out or he's going to hit a home run. He struck out most of the time. Do we want to mention a guy there's a guy I'm thinking about now? Now I don't have a lot of his stuff, but everyone loves him. I think the bloom's coming a little bit off the rose now, but it isn't going to work for him. It's Brian Hayes of the Pirate, Charlie Hayes, the son, and you look at what numbers he's putting up, which is not great. They paid him big money in Pittsburgh, and and then what does he do last year? Right, guys are running around the bases, and instead of covering his bag, he's putting sunflower seeds in his mouth. And so he's a guy that a lot of people I know like and put some money into. And I just get out while you can if you can. Huh?
The newer guys, you're ready to whack in like 4 or 5 years, but Greg Jeffries, you would still have start for the Mets.
It's a different era, though, man. Like people,
you would have Greg Jeffries start this opening day for the Mets.
I would love that.
Right.
I think he's 53, 54 years old, right? Thankfully, now listen, if this was the Wilpon Mets era, they probably would have signed him real cheap and then made a big announcement. That's not going to happen, thankfully, in the Cohen era Mets.
Universal DH.
Yeah.
All right. I want to move on real quick. Thank some of our sponsors, waxstat.com, Center Stage. You find them on the App Store and the Android Store. Quick, easy pricing, scanning palm in your hand, and they've released some new features, so make sure you update that as well. And
experience, quality, consistency, and the quickest turnaround times in the grading industry, we are proud to partner with SGC Grading. Check them out at www.gosgc.com.
And I want to thank all our sponsors. Now, I already played the warning music to ignore our picks as we talk a little Super Bowl here, but real quick, I got to throw out, this is a great name.
Jerome Walton.
Jerome Walton with the Cubs. Boy, did I have a ton of Jerome Walton cards.
I did have I'm not going to lie. It's funny. You forget about these guys.
Are great names. Yeah.
Because it's 1989. I'm 89 Bowman. Remember the 89 Bowmans? When Bowman came back, it was Griffey and Jerome. I believe Jerome Walton was in that.
I think he was also a 90 Dunriscott.
I'm not sure. But I had a lot of Jerome. I wasn't necessarily buying him and stockpiling him. I just seemed to always have a stack of Jerome Waltons. And he had a great start to his career, and it just, again, didn't really pan out, obviously. So it's just, that's why it's scary to, you got to be so careful when you go all in on someone, because we look at all the stories we talked, and the list is way longer. Dan Ryan, Carlos Rodon, 79 years. Well, but he's still a great player. I mean,
that's the whole point. He sold it for $70. Probably could do a lot better now.
He was almost a Met, I read. So
and David Clyde, but didn't quite make it there.
Yeah, a little before I was a kid, a very young kid, but I do remember him. He was, I believe, the number one pick in the draft out of high school, which at that time was not necessarily very common. And he did play. I mean, he did make the majors and have a career, but I think he had control issues.
And you know what? As I found out tonight, you have control issues around Oreo cookies, and this bothers me that you don't like Oreo cookies. So I would like to put that on your swing and miss list, because you have swung and miss on Oreo cookies.
Not my favorite, man.
I think the public needs to know.
I'll admit it. Now, when I did eat them when I was a kid, I did what like a lot of little kids do, right? You separate the cookie, and with your teeth, you take the cream out. And a lot of times I wouldn't even eat the cookie. I would throw those away, or someone else in my family would. I'll take it if you're not going to eat that. I don't know. They're not my favorite. Like, will I eat them if they're around and there's nothing else and it's a snack? I'll have one or two, sort of just to remind myself why I'm not a big fan.
I just want everybody to know, as you give advice and we talk about these important issues, the lens of which this information is coming from. This is a man who will turn down a double stuffed Oreo, and we're about to tell you who to bet on for the Super Bowl. So take that for what it's worth. We already played the warning. Please do not actually pay attention to any of our picks. We have no actual talent or ability to know what's going to happen, and have no guarantee that we can even log on correct. So that being said, as we talk today, and this is going to be our last show before the Super Bowl. The spread seems to be holding almost a pick 'em here. Philadelphia -1.5 or Kansas City +1.5, however you want to look at it. I think a lot of that's going to do with the health of the quarterbacks. How are you looking at the Super Bowl, John?
It's a great matchup, right? I mean, you got a young up-and-coming quarterback in Jalen Hurts, right? That's surprising me. I didn't think he was going to be this good. And then you got arguably what I think is the next great quarterback in the NFL, Brady. We talk about Brady just retiring. Like, who does the torch get passed to?
I'm sorry. We have breaking news. This is important. Keebler E.L. fudge cookies are one of my favorites, and that's from DR. Yes.
Yeah, I like those. I like those.
I'm sorry, John.
I'm in on those.
You can resume our show now.
I'm in on those. We talk about who's the next guy after Brady, right? There's probably not going to be another Tom Brady in terms of all the accolades and 7 rings, but I think the next guy is going to be Pat Mahomes. I think he's going to have multiple Super Bowl rings when it's all said and done. And when I say multiple, I'm not only talking 2. I'm talking 3, 4, maybe even 5. Just the plays he makes. He's one of the greatest quarterbacks I've ever seen play. Now, I know there's guys from years ago that I've never saw, at the time in live TV play, but just sidearm, falling down, behind his back, and just he doesn't make a ton of mistakes. And I think he's the best. If the league was all redone and there was a redraft, and that no one was on any team, I think Patrick Mahomes is the number 1 pick in that draft. And so
I feel like
it's hard to pick against him. I know he lost the Super Bowl the last time. He was in it too. Aforementioned Tom Brady, but I don't know. I think it's going to be a good game. Kansas City's the underdog here. I'm going to take them. I'm going to take them and get a 1.5. I'm not saying the Eagles can't win this game, but you got to pick someone, right? You can't. I could say I'm not picking anyone, but I'm going to take the Chiefs. I think the couple weeks to prepare for the game, he's going to get even healthier. You watch the game against the Bengals, he was fairly mobile and moving around. He had some runs.
If anybody can see, that was my analysis I was about to give. I just want to get that on the record. The 2 week break is huge for Mahomes. I agreed 100%. And if Jalen Hurts does have a shoulder injury, I don't think that heals as much in 2 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be a close. I don't think it's going to be a Super Bowl blowout, much like the NFC Championship was, where the Eagles ran the 4th string quarterback of the 49ers out of the gym. I don't think we see a game like that. I hope we don't see a game like that. Those aren't really that fun to watch. Andy Reid, you can make all the jokes about him you want, that he's reading a menu card, but the guy can coach football, and he also can draw on players' faces, as we learned in those commercials. So he's good at drawing plays, and he's good at drawing mustaches. So I agree with Richard there.
I kind of like the fact that it's the Andy Reid Bowl. He got knocked so much with McNabb for not quite getting over the top, and he's been ahead of the league offensively for years, that I think getting that 1 Super Bowl was good, but I think he's still got something in him that wants to take out Philly. I think Philly.
I was going to ask you that, Danny. Yeah. Do you think that playing your old team you used to coach, and obviously it's different players. Those aren't his players.
When I take my ex-girlfriend out to dinner, she pays every time now.
So I just was wondering, is that something? Is he going to get? Now, listen, if you ain't getting geared up because it's the Super Bowl alone, but is there going to be a little bit more on the line that it's his old team he used to coach? I would think so. I mean, his emotions, right?
I don't think you hold anything back in a Super Bowl no matter what. I think anything he has to win is going to come out there. So I'm actually going to take it's funny. I've been on Philly all year, but the more I've thought about it, I think I like Kansas City. But this one could go either way. I reserve the right to change my mind. Check my Twitter feed 5 minutes before kickoff for my final answer. We'll see how healthy everybody is pregame.
Yeah, I think if Philly wins this game, Danny, it's going to be and they have a great defense. They're gonna need to come up big, a turnover, force Mahomes into a turnover, someone else coughs the ball up. They're going to need some help on the defensive side to pull this game out. I just think Kansas City, is going to score some points. I don't know what the over and under is, but I think it's going to be a decent. I don't think it's going to be a super high scoring game, but I don't think it's going to be a lot. It's going to be that average.
It's funny. I didn't grab the over under because I think that's going to change more with the quarterbacks.
Yeah.
I think the spread's going to stay pretty close. But my bet on that as the one who puts together the.
That's all right. No biggie.
But if you're listening to this on audio, it is on there, and John cannot read it. So just trust me, I got it right. Super Bowl MVP. I'll catch you off guard.
I gotta go. I talked about him at nauseum. I think he's going to be the difference in this game. So I'm gonna go with Mahomes. I think he's gonna. I think when his career's over, he's gonna have a couple Super Bowl MVPs, and he's gonna have multiple rings. And I think he gets the second one with this Super Bowl. And I'm gonna go Mahomes. With a dark horse candidate, watch out for Travis Kelce.
Well, I was going to take Travis Kelce. So on my side of the screen, it's not a surprise. It's not a sleeper. I think that Mahomes is going to be the easy choice, but I think they're going to give him a little bit of a hard time with that Philadelphia defense. So I think Kelce ends up bailing him out a couple times. I could also see somebody like a Juju Smith-Schuster catching one deep and putting up some numbers.
Dan Ryan asked, who has the stronger kicking game? Good question. I will say this. It's not the Dallas Cowboys.
I will take anybody named Bud
Chris Jones, huge factor, huge game breaker. Exactly. Yep.
And he's one of the few reasons. Yeah, he's one of the few reasons I think Kansas City's defense stays in the game.
I will say this: I think the Eagles' defense is better overall than the Chiefs' defense. Going defense to defense, but I think Chris Jones is probably the best defensive player on the field, right there. So. He was disruptive. He had Burrow going backwards, all day last week. So that could be a big factor with Jalen Hurts. I'm sure that's going to be obviously the game plan. Chris Jones, take Jalen Hurts off his mark, right? Get him moving where he doesn't want to be.
We're gonna see if that shoulder's healthy pretty quick.
Yeah.
So
all
right,
go ahead.
Well, we're about to wrap up here. We went way over as we always do, but I love the conversation. This was one of my favorite ones. If you guys have any other names of any swing and miss hitters or cards you've bought, please DM us or put it in the chat and the comments afterwards because I love hearing the names.
Yeah, and it brings you back, right? And it's funny when Jerome Walton was mentioned. I wasn't necessarily buying Jerome Walton, but it brought me back to I had quite a bit of Jerome Walton. Probably still somewhere, and probably in my garage, there's a stack of Jerome Waltons in darkness there, just sitting, collecting dust. And, and it's funny you forget about those guys until someone else brings them up.
Well, maybe it's appropriate we finish on that note for the outro. So for another edition of Card Mensches, thanks for watching. I'm Danny. That's John. Have a good one.
I still love you, Greg Jeffries.